Okay, morning Year 10. I hope you're all safe and well and you enjoyed your Easter break. I have decided that I'm going to try and make a video for each of your lessons to help you with your understanding, and I'd like some feedback on what you think of this video. So let's look at percentages. So we're going to do a recap of percentages today. And the recap we're going to do, I've called it Unit A, and we're looking at finding percentages of an amount. And this is actually non-calculator, so you don't need your calculators today. And really do this at home without a calculator, because this will come on the non-calculator paper. Okay, so I know you've done this before, so it is a recap. So I'd like you to think about how you would find 10% of £30. Well, you probably know already the answer, and we know that 10%, we know percentage means 10 out of 100. If I was to simplify this, divide top and bottom by 10, I get 1/10. And to find 1/10 of anything, I divide by 10. So, to find 10% of an amount, we divide by 10. So, 10% of £30, if we were asked to find 10% of £30, we do 30 divided by 10, which would be £3. So that's our answer. Okay, you might be asked to find 5%. Well, without a calculator, we always start off with finding 10% first. So we know 10% of 600 would be 600 divided by 10, which is 60. So now we've got 10%, we can find 5%. So to get from 10% to 5%, we divide by 2. So we have to divide 60 by 2 to get £30. If you're struggling with any of this at all, please just email me and I will go through it with you on an individual basis. So let's look at another question. If you're asked to find 20% of 80 kilograms, you would first find 10%. Remember, to find 10%, we divide by 10. So 80 divided by 10. Now, we want 20%. So we want another 10%. And then we add those two up to get 20%. And my units, just putting down the units, and 20%. Okay, a little bit harder now, finding 15% of 4,000 grams. So, to find, I'm just going to put this underneath here for a second. Right, to find 15% of 4,000 grams, well, I find 10% first. So to find 10%, I divide by 10. Now I want 5%, because I know that 10 and 5 will make 15%. So to get 5% from 10%, I divide by 2. So I get 200. Now I can see if I add 10 and 5, I will get 15. So if I add these two, I will get 600 grams is my answer. And the last question I'm going to go through, the hardest one, to find 65% of 200. Right, well, we always start off with 10%. Well, 10% we divide by 10. Right, now I have to think about how do I make 65%? Well, I need to have a 60% and I need to have a 5%. And if I work out these two and add them together, I will have 65%. So it's just those two added together to get 65%. Well, to get 60%, I need 20 times 6. 10% was 20, and I want 6 lots of 10% to get 60%. So 120. And think about 5%. How do I get 5% going back to my original 10%? Well, I want half of 20, which is 10. So I've got 60%, 120, 5% is 10. So if I add the two together, 120, add 10, give me £130. So let's just recap on what we did. We found 10%, we found 60%, we found 5%, and we put the two together. Right, what I'm going to give you now, and I hope you've written some of these notes down in your books as we're going along. If not, you can play the video again and write some examples in your book. You're now going to have a go at doing these questions here. So I'd like you, there's 5 questions. I'd like you to pause the video and have a go at doing those 5 questions. And then I will go through the answers. Okay, well done. Let's see how many of these you got correct. So 10%, well, to find 10%, we divide by 10. Okay, 5%. Well, we always need to find 10% first. So 10% will be, now this is £8. Which, well, if I think about it, if I start off with 800 pennies, okay, because £8 is 800 pennies, and I want 10%, so 800 divided by 10 is 80p. So 5% will be 40p. Remember, it's all without a calculator. Okay, next one. 15%. Well, I need to find a 10%, divide by 10, and I want a 5%. So half of 10% is 5%. So I divide by 2 to get 5%. And I need to add these two together to get 15%. So add 300 and 150. I get 450 kilograms. Okay, next question. 30% of 700. 10% will be 70. 30%, I want to times by 3. And I get 210 centimetres, all without a calculator. And the hardest question now, 45%. I start off with 10%, divide by 10. I'm now going to work out 40%. So to find 40%, I want 10% 4 times, which will be 16. To get 5%, I want half of 10%. And to get my 45%, I add my 40% and my 5% to get 18. So well done if you got that last one correct. That was a hard one. So those are the answers. Just mark all of those and correct them in using your green pen. Now it's to check your understanding, I would like you to do these questions. And I'm not going to give you the answers in this video. You're going to take a photograph of these questions on your phone, email them to me please, and I will mark them and assess your understanding and get back to you of any questions you do not understand.